My friends, let me ask you something. Have you ever opened your eyes in the morning and felt a surge of excitement, as if the simple act of breathing in and out were evidence of something miraculous at work? This is not just the rising sun or the gentle hum of a new day. It's the presence of God's grace touching your soul and whispering that you have been given another chance. Another chance to love, to learn, to strive, to heal, to be more than you were yesterday. There is a burning question before us. Do you recognize that grace, or do you rush into your day unaware of this divine gift, letting hours slip through your fingers without ever fully embracing the blessing that keeps you going? I stand here to remind you that God's grace is not only the bedrock beneath your feet, it's the melody echoing through your spirit, calling you to new heights of faith and courage. And if you feel a tingle in your heart right now, that's the power of grace nudging you, guiding you to seize this very moment in all its fullness. Some people say they don't feel it. They've been battered by life's storms, weighed down by failures, heartbreaks, and regrets, unsure if a new dawn can truly bring new hope. But let me tell you, this grace we're talking about has been around before any storm, before any heartbreak, and it will stand strong after. It's not contingent on your performance, your track record, or even your sense of worthiness. Instead, it's the unshakable truth that God's presence resides in the air you breathe, the ground you walk on, and the people who stand by your side. That's why this topic matters so deeply. Without recognizing and embracing God's grace, we risk stumbling through life half awake, never tapping into the immense potential that faith can unlock. Now, I know the world is filled with noise, voices telling you that you're not enough, that your past disqualifies you, that your failures define your destiny. Maybe you've internalized those voices. Maybe you've looked at your reflection in the mirror and felt waves of doubt crashing in. But grace says otherwise. Grace says you're here for a reason. Grace proclaims that every challenge can be a stepping stone, every scar a lesson, every misstep an opportunity to realign with God's purpose. If you're carrying weight in your heart right now, shame, fear, confusion, know that grace is the key to release it. We're going to explore how that key opens doors in ways you may have never imagined. We're going to confront the obstacles, the distractions, and yes, even the darkness, and shine a light so bright it leaves no room for doubt. God's grace is powerful, yet so many of us miss it in the day-to-day rush. We scroll on our phones, race to work, rush through meetings, hurry back home, then collapse into bed drained and unfulfilled. Where's the gratitude? Where's the sense of awe at simply being alive, chosen, and capable of infinite growth? This conversation isn't just about feeling warm and fuzzy. It's about shifting our entire approach to life. It's about a mindset change that fuels our relationships, our ambitions, and our willingness to serve. If we ignore the presence of grace, we risk living in a constant state of lack, always searching for approval, always hustling for worthiness, never pausing to realize we already have the greatest gift imaginable. Tonight, or this morning, or whenever you're reading these words, our mission is clear. We must recognize God's grace as the foundation of our daily lives, Harness its transformative power and let it guide our every thought, word, and deed. It's time to break free from the chains of small thinking. It's time to wake up each day with a fire in our hearts, a sense of gratitude in our souls, and a conviction that God's grace will see us through every challenge. Let us lean in together. Open our hearts and set the stage for a life lived on purpose, with passion, and under the covering of unfailing grace. Let's talk first about the way grace can redefine how you start your day, how the moment your eyes open can become a sacred ritual, a joyful ceremony acknowledging that you are alive and aligned with a divine plan. You wake up, you take that first deep breath, you stretch your arms, and for a fleeting instant, the promise of a new day dawns inside you, full of possibilities. Yet how quickly do we let it vanish under the weight of our daily burdens? Instead of soaking in that magical moment, we jump to our phones, check the news, respond to emails, or scroll through social media. We let stress flood in before gratitude has a chance to settle. What if, from this day forward, you claimed that first minute as holy ground? What if you paused, placed your hand over your heart, and said, "Thank you, God, for your grace"? That doesn't have to be a long prayer, just a sincere acknowledgement that you are here by design, that today has a purpose, and that no matter what happened yesterday, you stand forgiven, renewed, and beloved. When you take that moment, you shift your entire perspective. It's no longer about racing to keep up. It's about moving in step with God's rhythm. It's as if the gears of your soul lock into place and your spirit hums with expectation. You feel lighter because you realize you're not facing the day alone. You realize that nothing you encounter, no problem at work, no conflict in your relationships, no personal shortcoming is beyond the reach of grace. It's easy to ignore that truth if you never acknowledge it in the first place. But once you do, you start to see it everywhere. In the stranger who smiles at you on the street, the friend who calls at just the right moment, the sudden insight that leads to a solution at work. You realize grace shows up in big ways and small, weaving itself into the tapestry of your day. A friend of mine once woke up to face a day packed with meetings, deadlines, and responsibilities that felt impossible to juggle. He told me that he felt a pit in his stomach the moment his alarm went off. Instead of diving into panic, he remembered the power of pausing. He took a breath, said a quick prayer, and asked for the clarity and strength to move forward. Throughout that hectic day, he found surprising calm amidst the chaos, and ease that defied logic. Every solution arrived at just the right time. Every person he encountered seemed to cooperate with kindness, and he ended the day feeling a sense of fulfillment rather than exhaustion. That's grace in action. Now, here's the catch if you fail to recognize that grace at the start of your day, you risk missing it entirely. You become like someone hurrying past a priceless painting without ever noticing its beauty. You might still get things done, but your efforts feel strained, your heart remains restless, and stress gnaws at the edges of your well-being. Is that really how you want to live? Pushing, striving, forcing, without ever experiencing the gentle, guiding hand of a loving God who wants to lead you in every step. When you open your day with grace, You set the tone for everything else. You train your mind to look for blessings rather than burdens, to see potential instead of problems, to feel grateful instead of grumpy. This shift changes how you talk to people, how you handle setbacks, and even how you perceive your own worth. So here's the challenge. Make it a habit. Give your first minute to God. If you're truly pressed for time, give 10 seconds. But do it wholeheartedly. Visualize your day covered by God's goodness. Invite grace into your conversations, your decisions, even your mistakes. Watch how it transforms fear into courage and stress into calm. When you start your day with a posture of receiving rather than striving, you open the door to miracles. You invite synchronicity, you unleash creative ideas, you welcome divine guidance. Because that's what grace is. It's undeserved, unearned favor, and yet it's ours for the taking. And if this morning routine is just the beginning, imagine what else God can do when you remain open all day long. You become a vessel, a conductor, a channel for love, peace, and purpose. You carry a different energy, and people notice. They might not have the words for it, but they sense something strong yet gentle in you. They see that your confidence is not arrogance, but faith. That your peace is not complacency, but trust. And before you know it, your morning practice radiates outward, shaping your entire day and touching everyone around you. Doesn't that sound like a life worth living? So I invite you to claim your mornings. Don't let them slip away in a blur of emails and notifications. Seize that first moment, that sacred second, and let God's grace settle into your bones. Then carry it with you like a beacon guiding your path. And if you stumble, and we all do, take a breath, look up, and remember that you started this day with God's grace. You can choose to rest in it, return to it, and let it restore you whenever life's chaos threatens to pull you under. In the end, it's a choice of chaos or clarity, worry or worship, pride or prayer. I know which one I choose. How about you? Now let's take this deeper and recognize that God's grace is not just about mornings. It's about the constant renewal of our spirit throughout the day. It's about letting that grace shape your identity, define your relationships, and pave the way for your future. You see, grace is like a reservoir that never runs dry. It's the abiding truth that no matter how many mistakes you've made, you're never beyond redemption. It's the foundation that anchors you when storms rage and doubts multiply. So many people walk through life believing that their worst moments define them. But grace says otherwise. Grace insists that your story is still being written, and every chapter has the potential for redemption. I once heard a story about a man who had lost his way. Substance abuse, broken relationships, and zero self-worth. Society gave up on him. But God's grace did not. In the midst of his darkest night, he felt a stirring in his soul, like a small ember that refused to be extinguished. Slowly, he found his way into a loving community of believers who saw not his past, but his promise. Every day he woke up declaring, "I am not my mistakes, I am God's beloved." Over time, he rebuilt his life, mended relationships, and started helping others find their way out of similar pits of despair. When asked how he managed such a transformation, he smiled and said, "It wasn't me, it was God's grace working in me." That's the power we're talking about. That's the unstoppable force that, when invited, can transform even the bleakest reality into a testimony of hope. But what if we remain blind to it? What if we cling to our shame, regrets, and wounded pride, thinking we must carry it all alone? We end up battling against our own potential. We grow bitter. We lose our sense of worth. We let our hearts harden and our relationships suffer. Yet the moment we acknowledge God's grace, everything shifts. We understand that perfection is not the goal. Growth is. We realize that even in our shortcomings, God is still molding and shaping us, teaching us lessons that only come through trials. That kind of perspective changes how you treat yourself and others. You become more patient, more forgiving, and paradoxically, more driven. Because you're no longer running from something. You're running toward a greater calling. This understanding of grace also transforms how we relate to each other. When we accept that we are constantly receiving undeserved favor, we start looking at the people around us through the same lens of compassion. Instead of lashing out in anger, we pause, remembering that we, too, have been shown mercy. Instead of judging someone's past, we see the possibilities for their future. This doesn't mean we become doormats or ignore wrongdoing. It means we carry a spirit of redemption rather than condemnation. We seek solutions, not just punishment. We become agents of God's love, speaking words that heal rather than words that harm. If you ignore this aspect of grace, you risk stagnation. You risk letting past failures define your present reality. You risk thinking small, never realizing that God is calling you to something bigger. Maybe there's a dream in your heart that you've put on the back burner because you feel unworthy, or a relationship you've given up on because you can't see a way forward. Grace says, keep going. Grace says there is a light at the end of that tunnel, and it's brighter than you ever imagined. Don't you want to walk in that light? So how do you apply this throughout your day? It starts with surrender, literally acknowledging throughout the day that you cannot do it alone. Maybe you take a short pause during lunch, close your eyes and whisper, God, your grace is sufficient for me. Maybe you take a walk and deliberately observe the beauty around you, reminding yourself that life is a gift. Maybe you journal a quick thought or gratitude note in the evening. The point is, keep that door open. Keep your heart turned toward the possibility that every moment can be touched by something divine. And if you fall down, if you say the wrong thing, or mess up, or let stress dominate your mood, grace invites you to return, to recalibrate. You don't have to wait for Sunday morning or some grand ceremony to reconnect with God. You can do it right there in your office, on the subway, or in your living room at midnight. That is the beauty of grace. It's always available, always present, always waiting for you to embrace it once more. It's like a quiet friend at your side, ready to support you the moment you ask. Can you feel that relief, that sense of not having to carry the world on your shoulders anymore? Because in the end, grace is not a passive concept. It's an active force that can shape every facet of your life. It's a force that propels you forward and keeps your hope alive. When you begin to see yourself through eyes of grace, you stop limiting your own possibilities. You stop letting fear dictate your choices. You stop believing that you're confined by the boundaries of your past. Instead, you start expecting miracles. You start attempting challenges that once intimidated you. And you start loving others in a way that can only be described as supernatural. Is that kind of life possible? Yes, it is. And it starts right now with your decision to open your heart and say, "God, have your way." Let this be the moment. Let this be the day you fully embrace that amazing grace, not just at sunrise, but every minute, every hour, every new opportunity. Because you are here for a purpose. Your future's bright, your story is far from over, and God's grace is sufficient to guide you through every twist and turn. Embrace that truth, hold it tight, and watch as your life unfolds with divine orchestration you never dreamed possible. Now, as we move toward the close of our time together, I want you to picture something. Imagine waking up tomorrow with an unshakable certainty that you are loved, chosen, and covered by an incredible, unending grace. Envision yourself stepping out of bed, already feeling the warmth of this divine favor, greeting the challenges ahead with a confidence that stems from knowing you do not walk alone. Picture every obstacle bowing to a higher purpose, every sorrow giving way to deeper wisdom, and every triumph igniting new growth. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the life you are invited to live when you acknowledge God's grace as your constant companion. Let's take a moment to remember the core truths we've explored. We talked about the transformative power of recognizing grace the instant you open your eyes in the morning. By dedicating that first sacred moment to gratitude and alignment with God, you set the trajectory for your entire day, freeing your mind from anxiety and filling your heart with gratitude. We also delved into how grace renews your spirit throughout every waking hour. It reminds you that your worst moments do not disqualify you from God's love. It spurs you to keep dreaming, keep forgiving, and keep striving for a higher calling. We learned that when you let grace define your relationships, you become an agent of healing and hope rather than judgment and despair. These are not just lofty ideals. They're practical shifts you can apply here and now. As you reflect on these insights, I invite you to gather them into a personal commitment. Don't let this remain a passing inspiration. I challenge you to take action. Start by carving out that first minute in your morning. Before your feet hit the floor, whisper, "God, thank you for your grace. Show me how to live in it today." Let that statement be more than words. Let it become an open doorway that God can use to pour blessings, wisdom, and courage into your life. Next, set small reminders throughout your day. A note on your desk, a silent prayer at lunchtime, a quick reflection before you drive home. Keep acknowledging that grace there, that it's bigger than any problem, and that it's shaping you into the person you are meant to be. If you've been weighed down by regrets, this is the moment to release them. Acknowledge your past mistakes, but don't let them shackle you. Offer them up to God and trust that grace has the power to transform even your darkest chapters into testimonies of resilience and faith. If you've been wrestling with broken relationships, let grace soften your heart. Reach out, apologize if necessary, forgive if needed, and believe that with God, healing is possible. if you've been holding yourself back out of fear or insecurity, let grace embolden you to chase that dream, pursue that calling, or take that leap of faith. Understand that this journey is not always smooth. You'll have moments when you slip, when you lose your temper, when you doubt, when you forget to pray. But grace means you can start again, every moment of every day. It's an invitation to pick yourself up and keep going, to keep learning and keep growing. There's no expiration date on God's love. That steady assurance should fill you with hope right now. Because no matter what the world says, no matter how many times you've stumbled, no matter how far you've drifted, God's grace is there to catch you, renew you, and send you forward with purpose. I want you to hold on to that promise. Let it echo in your heart as you go about your day, your week, your year. Let it shift your perspective so that you see every obstacle not as a dead end, but as a chance for God to reveal a miracle. Let it empower you to be a living testament of love in a world hungry for kindness. And when people ask you how you manage to stay optimistic, how you navigate tough times with such resilience, you can point them to the source. You can smile and say, it's God's grace at work in my life. And maybe, just maybe, that simple statement will plant a seed in their own hearts, leading them to experience the joy and peace you've discovered. As we conclude, I want to leave you with this final thought. There is nothing more liberating or more electrifying than starting your day by anchoring your life in God's grace. It changes your posture, your attitude, your approach to challenges, and your relationships with others. It illuminates a path forward that is guided not by fear or insecurity, but by love and purpose. When you do this day after day, you are building a life rooted in unshakable truth. You are becoming a testament to what is possible when a person aligns fully with divine favor, unmerited, yet freely given. Can you imagine what our world would look like if more people lived this way? Households would mend, friendships would blossom, workplaces would transform, communities would thrive. We would see a wave of hope spreading across every corner of society. This isn't just a dream, it's a possible reality, one that begins with you, with me, with every single person who decides to embrace grace as the guiding force of their existence. Do you hear that call in your spirit? Do you feel that stirring, that sense that you are on the edge of a breakthrough? I ask you to let this be your breakthrough. Let this be the turning point where you say, yes, I will live my life in the awareness of God's grace. I will claim it each morning, apply it through each day, and share it freely with those around me. Because in the end, grace is not a secret to be hoarded. It's a gift to be passed on, a torch that lights the way for others. When we share grace, we multiply it. When we demonstrate love and compassion, we reflect the character of God. And when we turn every challenge into an opportunity to witness grace at work, we transform not only our own lives, but the lives of countless others. So take that next step. Step into tomorrow, or even into the next hour, clothed in the knowledge that God's grace is your birthright as a child of the Almighty. Step out of shame and into forgiveness. Step away from fear and into bold faith. Step beyond limitations and into the infinite possibilities that await when you walk hand in hand with your Creator. And as you do, let your light shine. Not because you are perfect, but because God's grace is perfect in you. Let that be the anthem that guides you, the truth that sustains you, and the gift you share with a world so desperately in need of hope. My friends, it's time to rise. It's time to wake up every day with that deep, unbreakable confidence that you are loved and you are called. Let that knowledge shape how you see yourself, how you treat others, and how you tackle every dream. Let it fuel you with a passion so strong that even the darkest night cannot extinguish it. Grace is here. It's alive. It's calling your name. Grab hold of, let it fill your heart, and watch as your life becomes a living testimony to the miraculous power of God's unending love. And when you look back one day, you'll see how far you've come, how many lives you've touched, and you'll say with conviction, by the grace of God, I am who I am. That is what I wish for you, starting right now and every new morning yet to come. Go for embrace it and never let it go. May God bless you all.